there is an alternative path to reach Act 2 in Silksong that does not require ringing all giant bells nor defeating the last judge boss. It will require traversing several tricky regions and defeating an entirely different, though in my opinion easier boss, all of which will be covered in this guide. As usual, useful timestamps can be found in the video description. Before we get started, I have some important information that is worth hearing. First, we will need the Needolin and all previous Traversal abilities that are obtained in Act 1. Fortunately, I have a really great guide for obtaining all Act 1 Traversal abilities, which I will link near the bottom of this video's description. Also, if you haven't already, I recommend farming up around 1,000 or more rosaries, then converting them all into necklaces for safekeeping. This will ensure that you always have the rosaries necessary to open up benches and fast travel stations along the journey. Finally, I haven't had enough time to test and confirm what quests or NPC interactions should be done before advancing to Act 2. In addition, while I am using a very bare bones character to make this journey, it definitely makes it tougher than it needs to be. For both those reasons, I highly recommend exploring the Act 1 regions thoroughly, especially the various vendors, before following this guide. Alright, with that, we will start at the halfway home in Greymoor and make our way west. Our goal is to open up a lift. After moving through several open areas, we will enter a tower-like structure. We need to make our way towards the upper east exit for it, which will require cling grip to reach easily. We will then want to move east along the same level until reaching a lift. We can unlock this lift to serve as a shortcut back to the halfway home. Feel free to go rest if needed, then ride the lift back up. From the top of the lift, we will continue moving up and towards the east. We should find the entrance to Sinner's Road there. We will then need to move further east until reaching a chamber with a sign pointing towards a bench. Following the sign, we will clamber up to reach an elevated exit out east. Swimming in the fetid water will get us the larva debuff, which drains silk over time. Because of that, we will want to do our best to avoid falling in as we platform our way up through this section. We can eventually drop down to a small chamber to the west where we will hit a lever to open up the exit out of here. Carefully drop down and to the west to reach the room with the bench, as well as Chakra, who will sell us the map for Sinner's Road. Unfortunately, rosaries are not enough to unlock the bench. We will also need to go through a short platforming section beyond a hidden wall up into the west of the bench. This section will take us below the bench, where we can slash away the vines that are clogging up the gears of the bench, which will allow it to rise all the way up. We can then use the return route to more quickly and safely get back to our next checkpoint. From here, we'll move back out east into the previous chamber. We will then need to make our way up and can hit another lever to open a shortcut back down to the start of Sinner's Road. Once we get up into the next section of Sinner's Road, we will need to move east, avoiding the muck roaches, roach keepers, and fetid water along the way. We can hit the lever at the end of this path to move into the next chamber, then carefully drop all the way to the bottom east exit. All we need to do is reach the end of this chamber and defeat 2 muck roaches. Doing so will unlock a nearby bench to serve as a checkpoint and also an NPC by the name of Styx. If we either die or load back into the game at this bench, we should get a free Silk Eater from Styx. In any case, we will move back out of this area and make our way up the tall vertical chamber that follows. We need to get to the dead bug along the east wall with an item pickup. There is a breakable wall there that leads into the next region that we need to tackle, Bilewater. We will need to avoid several swamp squits and mire mites as we platform our way towards the top east exit out of this first chamber. In the next chamber, we will need to ascend to the top of a tall shaft. There are a lot more enemies in the way, and they respawn after being defeated. That said, if you're struggling to get through this section, you can spend some time defeating these enemies to refill all your health and even top up your silk. In any case, we will reach the entrance to a new chamber at the top west corner of the shaft. Going along this section, we will be introduced to a new enemy type, the Stilkin, which shoots darts at us. For the most part, I just did my best to avoid these pesky foes as I moved west through 3 more chambers. Shockwork can be found near the end of the second chamber, but the double jump ability is required to reach him, and we won't get that until reaching Act 2. For now, we will just go to and through the next chamber, then drop down into the east, which will bring us to the Bellways for Bilewater, as well as a much needed bench to rest at. Both of them do cost money though, so I hope you brought your rosaries. Now we don't have a map to reference, but we are at the Bilewater Bellway station. From there, we will move west through a breakable wall to reach another new area, the Mist. One thing to mention here is that, as far as I know, this is the only area with the Wraith enemy type, and this entire area is temporary. So if you are trying to complete your Hunter's Journal, you will need to defeat several of them and do that before getting through the Mist. As far as how to get through the Mist, it is a puzzle of sorts. All the rooms are randomly generated, and we can only progress by going through the correct exit. The way we determine the correct exit is by finding groups of butterflies and playing our Needolin for them. This will cause them to fly towards the correct exit, showing us the way. The Wraith enemies are particularly nasty and will attack us if we get too close to them. We can deal with that in one of 2 ways. The first way is to defeat them, but again, they are fairly dangerous, so watch out. The second way is to just run. This works well if we already know the correct exit and have a clear path towards it. To that end, playing the Needolin near them will also temporarily entrance them and turn them passive, but this ends as soon as we stop playing. Also, sometimes it is better to just run into them, take 1 point of damage and get temporary invulnerability, rather than be snared in their grasp when they attack and take 2 points of damage. I'll let the rest of this section play out so that you might get some useful insights from the gameplay. but know that you need to successfully get through 4 or 5 chambers to finally escape the mist, and going through the wrong exit even once will send you back to the start. Once we make it through the mist, we will arrive at the exhaust organ. Running inside, we can dash past the single enemy and make our way up the first available path to reach a much needed bench. Again, there is no map for this area, but luckily it's relatively small. We will start by moving down into the east, then up the second path to the east. We will need to wait for the exhaust to pass, then go up the tube to the next safe spot. After the first tube comes a second, and we then need to drop down the third tube and dash to the west. Drop down one more level and move further west to open up a shortcut back to the bench. To reach the boss of this area, and the last obstacle between us and Act 2, we will head east and back up the shortcut we just opened, this time going all the way up. We will then move east and watch out for the exhaust before dropping down into the east. The second tube that we have to go up doesn't have any exhaust to worry about, but the third tube does. Once we've gotten all the way up, we can move west into the boss chamber. The boss, Phantom, is no slouch. That being said, I found her a lot more manageable than the last judge. First, we should stand on the east side of the chamber when the fight is initiated in order to avoid the bursts of exhaust. As far as getting in damage, both the needle throw and basic attack of Phantom provide large windows for getting in attacks of our own. Another habit we need to get good at is jumping above her when we accidentally trigger her parry attack. She will eventually start performing large AoE attacks, and these are best avoided by sprinting towards the far side of the chamber from wherever you might be. Going towards the side nearest to you is a good way to get trapped and hit by it. When Phantom becomes enraged, she will perform a series of AoE attacks, which are best avoided by dashing back and forth between the two sides of the arena. After this is over, she will resume her various attacks, but becomes a bit more aggressive. The fight ends with us performing a parry and unlocking the cross-stitch skill. We can then move out west from the boss chamber and stand on a pressure plate to call down a lift. It will take us up to a very short platforming section that ends at the Grand Bellways station in the Citadel. Before dropping down there, we may as well break through some debris to the west to get a free memory locket. Hopefully you brought some rosary necklaces, because we will need a few hundred rosaries to unlock the map for this part of the Citadel, Coral Chambers, as well as the 2 fast travel stations. The Ventrica connects the various regions of Act 2, and the Bellways connects the various regions of Act 1, and this is the only location in the entire game where both forms of transit are connected. In any case, once we are ready to officially begin Act 2, we can step out west into the Citadel. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me in the comments, where I will do my best to help. If you want to see more great content, you can head over to my channel, and if you're new, consider subscribing. You're helping me feed my cat. Her name's Marshmallow. Have a great day. If you're here today, have a great Monday and a great week. And as always, thanks for watching.